Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Continuing with this, what on this, what Michael said. So there. So again, I think we are reaching a point where definitely we are seeing how traditional finance services can be offered in a decentralized fashion. We are seeing credit cards, debit cards of cryptocurrencies. We are seeing maybe banks coming out with maybe simple buy, sell, and holding services, custodian services, like in US. So, Jonathan, I mean, based on your research, based on, I mean, you have also been seeing like maybe major companies working in this direction. So, just to continue with this, what do you think? What type of services come under this institutional DeFi sector? And are there any other factors other than the client's demand, which is attracting institutions towards DeFi? Is there, like Michael also mentioned, is there some part of decentralization, a part of blockchain, a part of automation, smart contracts? So we have this technological part, we have economical part, we have financial part. So what do you think, like, is driving this demand, plus how financial institutions can satisfy this demand, and what type of services they can offer?
Yeah, so I think to start with the elephant in the room, the big one is inflation and super low interest rates. And that is where, when looking at digital assets and specifically Bitcoin, it is a new form of gold. It is digital gold in the truest sense of the word. And so for these large institutions that maybe have a lot of capital that is just sitting around, or even corporates that maybe have a treasury, having some exposure to an asset that by definition is, against inflation, is a logical move, and it should be part of a broader portfolio diversification strategy as per any reasonable logic, one could argue. So I think that's one thing in the direction. The second one, I think, is around the yield generating possibilities that exist within the DeFi ecosystem, and the fact that, a lot of things like lending and borrowing, which has been in traditional finance for, many, many years, is now existing on top of these blockchain systems. And the interest and yield generation possibilities are significantly times, like maybe 10 times or up to 20 times better than what you can get in the traditional world. And so rather than these players looking at the crypto and being like, oh yeah, that's a toy, now the conversation is being like, hey, this is actually serious. Like, why can't we get involved? What are the reasons that we can't get involved? And that, going back to how there's this jump from the traditional world into the DeFi world, that jump traditionally, or crypto, has been very, very big. But now, because the crypto world is building towards the institutions, it's easier for them to meet in the middle and to actually start adopting these services. I think as more and more people do it, it becomes easier and easier for their peers to also do it. So I think that's where, when JP Morgan, and I think it was Jamie Dimon years ago, said, oh yeah, Bitcoin and crypto is a complete and utter joke, and then he turns around, that can actually help, get other peers also involved in the ecosystem and treat it more seriously. When we're looking at the types of services, that's where, again, coming back to the way that Blockdata sees the ecosystem, where you have the blockchains, and the tokens, the protocols, and then the services that are now providing services into the ecosystem are hitting a stage of maturity and are becoming unicorns, which in the traditional sense of the world, a unicorn is a company that's, found product market fit, they're making sales, and they're actually providing a service that is useful, and they're hitting a level of maturity that you wouldn't get of a startup of 10 people. So as we're not seeing one, but we're seeing multiple, I think we're almost at a point now where there's 30 unicorn companies within the blockchain ecosystem. This is just a general sign of maturity, where also from a corporate perspective, when entering the space, or a Goldman Sachs or whoever, they're no longer having to work with a 10-person startup, but they're being handheld through the entire adoption journey by these organizations that have now not just onboarded one large company, but they're doing it, 10 times, 20 times. And this is something where, specifically talking about the custody providers in this space and how institutional focused they've become, this is where, you know, they have good experience. And the last thing I'll say here is, we see this talent drain happening from the traditional finance world into the DeFi and blockchain ecosystem. But with that talent drain is there's a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge that is moving over to that world, which is then helps it, or sorry, makes it easier for that world to then also adhere and can't think of the right word I'm looking for. You know, put everyone's minds at ease, and again, build that maturity. I hope I answered everything. That was a big question you just asked there.
Yeah, that's